Part 80. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 791. The onlookers in the family compound were all stunned. Chen Ju's words revealed too much information. Cao Hongzhi wrote a report letter? Report Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu? Did Chen Ju know about it? He just didn't expect that Cao Hongzhi would also report him and his wife, so he came to settle the score with Cao Hongzhi? It's simply eye-opening. Cao Hongzhi, who is usually quiet and not very talkative, actually did such a big thing. Unable to help themselves, everyone quietly took 2 steps back in an attempt to distance themselves from Cao Hongzhi. There were also a few people who showed a trace of worry on their faces, worried that their family would be reported by Cao Hongzhi. Feng Qingxiu was holding Fu Bao and taking 11 Bao back to the military hospital to continue working when she passed by. Hearing these words, she couldn't help but frown, and then broke into a cold sweat. She was secretly glad that she had taken precautions in advance and did not miss the point. She asked why people from the capital would come to her home first for no reason, look here and there, look for opportunities to observe the situation in her home, and ask so many questions. It turned out that someone was causing trouble. Cao Hongzhi, she remembered this woman who had nothing to do with her. Is she the wife of Li Shuitian, director of the political department? A gentleman's revenge is never too late. Moreover, if Cao Hongzhi wrote the report letter and was exposed by Chen Ju, she would not end well. No normal person would like to interact with someone who likes to make a snitch, let alone someone who writes a report letter. Everyone will worry that the other party will report them one day. Feng Qingxiu had no intention of working at all at this time, so she hid in the crowd watching the excitement, watching calmly as Chen Ju continued to beat Cao Hongzhi while cursing. The attack was particularly ruthless, making a crackling sound. Chen Ju looked as slender as Cao Hongzhi. In fact, Chen Ju ate well and was strong. Cao Hongzhi was far inferior to her. For a long time, she couldn't knock Chen Ju over and get up. She could only stretch out her arms to protect her head and face. He said confidently and loudly, "If you don't do something bad, don't be afraid of being called out. At the beginning, wasn't it you who encouraged me to write a report letter and expose the black sheep below?" When everyone heard this, they suddenly realized that the culprit was Chen Ju herself. "I suggest you expose the injustice below. I didn't ask you to report me and Lao Qi." Chen Ju was so angry that she didn't care about her face anymore. She knew the penalties for corruption very well, and there was almost no possibility of her getting away with it. Also, Cao Hongzhi, you came to my house 2 or 3 times, why did you report us? Why? Cao Hongzhi laughed loudly, "You are relying on your high military rank, high position, high salary, corruption, extravagance, and waste, taking the capitalist road, which is against socialist education. Why can't I report you? You want to ask me how I know that your family's affairs are wrong? How do you know you have so many watches? Let me tell you, Chen Ju, you don't know me, but I know you. We are fellow villagers. Didn't you notice that our accents are exactly the same?" Kui Xiaoyuan stood at the door and heard the content of their conversation, and immediately asked his staff to work with the deputy commander and military chief of staff to prohibit senior generals from returning to their dormitories or family rooms at this time to prevent them from transferring stolen goods. Also pay attention to family members who have heard the news and move or hide things with shady origins, Ding Ai Hung reminded. Zheng Suifeng said, "Don't worry about that. The troops' entry and exit are very strict. No one can escape. How conspicuous is it to bring things in and out?" Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 792. The 2 senior generals followed Kui Xiaoyuan's instructions with gloomy faces, and had to clean up 2 rooms to store the confiscated things. Now that the current incident has occurred, neither of them looks good. In an instant, the old teenage Qi Gang was about to step forward to stop Chen Zhu from continuing to embarrass himself, but was stopped by Kui Xiaoyuan. "Comrade Qi Gang, I want to hear their conversation," Kui Xiaoyuan said. Qi Gang had no choice but to stop and could only hold his son's hand tightly to prevent him from adding to the excitement. Chen Zhu said, "You know me? Why don't I know you?" She was stunned by the news revealed by Cao Hongju. She paused slightly and relaxed her hand. Cao Hongju immediately seized the opportunity to stand up. He pushed her down and slapped her several times in the face. Chen Zhu was knocked to the ground by her, then pressed and beaten by her. Her face was painful and angry. Cao Hongju. Cao Hongju snorted, "It's useless for you to call me by my name. If you are innocent, I'm really afraid that you will come to settle accounts with me. But if you are not innocent, there will be no place for you here. In my hometown, you have no place for me." Following the momentum of Deputy Commander Qi, he bought so many products that required tickets. "The butcher, Master Wang, would like to hold on to you first. If you don't want it, it will be the turn of other cotters to buy. You let others have tickets. You can't even buy anything, don't think I don't know." "Who are you?" Chen Zhu felt a trace of fear in her heart. Everyone, not just Chen Zhu, has people paying attention to everything big and small every day, and feels uncomfortable all over, like being secretly stared at by a poisonous snake that can show its fangs and spit out long messages anytime and anywhere. You are the wife of the deputy commander, and you are a big shot who is supported by many people from all over the country. Of course you don't know a little person like me." Cao Hongju sneered. "Chen Zhu, I also envied you and admired your courage. Break the shackles of feudalism, fall in love and marry freely, and take the ex-wife of Deputy Commander Qi instead. Once you fly on a branch and become a phoenix, your whole family will follow you to the sky, and your relatives and friends will all flatter you. However, you let my son die in peace. Even if I kill you, it won't be able to eliminate the hatred in my heart." At this time, Cao Hongju's slender and yellow cheeks looked a bit scary, and his eyebrows were sinister. "What on earth did I do to make you hate me so much?" Chen Zhu was furious. "I don't know you at all, how could you let your son die in peace? I don't even know where you are from. Could it be that the respect you showed me before all fake? My respect for you is just an illusion. I want to eat your flesh and drink your blood. How can I admire you from the bottom of my heart? Without you, my son would not have died so miserably." Cao Hongju roared. He made a sound, his eyes were blood red. "What does it have to do with me? I don't know you or your son at all." Cao Hongju looked down at Chen Zhu's unaffected face. 5 years ago, there was a famine in my hometown, and people died of hunger everywhere. Many families exchanged their children for food, and it was terrible. The money and food stamps sent home from my paddy fields were not in our hands. I was detained by the cotters. My parents-in-law were starving to death. I wanted to cut off my own flesh and cook it for my son to eat so that he could live a good life. But I was so skinny that I didn't have a knife to chop my own bones. My son was so hungry that his whole body was swollen. Someone said that the hospital would give out a prescription drug to treat number 2 disease. I carried my son to get it, but when I got there, it was no longer available." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 793. Many people present know that number 2 disease is edema disease. At that time, no, even now, it cannot be said to be edema disease. It can only be called number 2 disease. In fact, the homophony of Kangfu powder is that bran is the bran of rice bran, and bran is the bran of rice bran. The bran of wheat bran is fried bran mixed with some Cuban sugar, which is full of hope that it can recover from edema. When Cao Hongju mentioned number 2 disease and confusion, many people felt a sense of sympathy for the same disease. They had also experienced the famine Cao Hongju mentioned, but they were lucky enough to survive and did not become one of the white bones. Cao Hongju's tears flowed down like a waterfall, and she choked with sobs. I didn't receive Kangfu powder at that time, but my son only had 1 breath left. Fortunately, I met a kind-hearted uncle who took pity on us and gave me for 2 yuan. I went to the city to buy some high-priced biscuits that did not require food stamps for my son to eat. It was also a nutritional supplement. Unfortunately, the old man had no food stamps anymore. When I arrived at the store, the conductor told me there was no food, nothing to eat, but I clearly saw her. Cao Hongju pointed her finger at Chenju, almost poking her eyes, and said, "You entered the store behind me." The salesperson told me that there were no more biscuits, but she took out a paper bag from under the counter and handed it to you. I couldn't wait to open it, took a piece of biscuit and put it in my mouth, saying it was so delicious. My son died while you were eating that biscuit and couldn't hold his eyes shut. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Even Kui Xiaoyuan and others did not expect that Cao Hongju's report was actually mixed with personal hatred. "So you wrote a letter to report them," Kui Xiaoyuan said solemnly. Cao Hongju was still sitting on Chenju, rolling her blood-red eyes, and glanced at Kui Xiaoyuan, with a very faint smile on the corner of her mouth, revealing a strange kind of schadenfreude. "I wrote to report them because they were corrupt, extravagant, and wasteful, rather than avenging private revenge," Cao Hongju said very confidently. "Flies don't bite seamless eggs, so why don't I report others but report them? Some people they can't even get a bite to eat, but what about them? The extravagance and waste, the corruption and corruption. I have clearly stated what Chenju did in the report letter. If you don't believe it, you can ask the soldiers who were blackmailed by her. Or go to your hometown to find out." Chenju couldn't say a word. She couldn't remember what Cao Hongju said. It's been 5 years. Who can remember clearly what happened 5 years ago? Feng Qingxiu suddenly said, "You and I have no grievances in the past, but we have no grievances these days. We never met before we returned to the army. Why did you report us? Why do you believe that our family is corrupt, extravagant, and wasteful? Now several leaders have already, after proving our family's innocence, I can sue you for false accusations." Cao Hongju's fate was very tragic. She suffered the pain of losing her son at a young age. Her exposure of corrupt individuals showed that she had the courage to uphold the integrity of the officialdom. However, she had no evidence and it made no sense to drag her family down. Cao Hongju looked almost crazy and said sternly, "I would rather kill 1,000 people by mistake than let one go. Don't blame me. If you want to blame Liu Zayadai." She said so confidently, and Chenju suggested that I write a report letter. Naturally, if you believe it, you can tell by looking at how fat your son is that you have better food than Chenju's family, so he must be corrupt and bribery a lot. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 794. Feng Qingxiu smiled faintly. "I regret to tell you, Comrade Cao Hongju, Comrade Lu Zhang and I have neither embezzled nor accepted bribes, nor have we been corrupt. As for the word extravagance and waste, it has nothing to do with our family. To report others, there is enough evidence to prove that your report is true and not based on hearsay, otherwise you must bear the consequences of being falsely accused." When she said this, she spoke sharply and with a majestic look on her face, which was very intimidating to people. Many people did not dare to breathe after hearing her words. Kui Xiaoyuan nodded and said, "Yes, we can prove that what Comrade Feng Qingxiu said is true. Of course, we need to conduct further investigations to ensure that innocent people are innocent and guilty people are severely punished." Cao Hongja shrugged, whatever you say, anyway, I can guarantee that the other people I reported deserve death. Hongju, Li Shuitian, director of the political department, rushed over immediately after getting the news. He grabbed his frantic wife and pulled her away from Chenju. Chenju quickly got up and ran to Qi Gang's side. Qi Gang watched his wife grabbing his sleeve, but without shaking it off, he let out a long sigh and had no choice but to do anything. Li Shuitian bent over and apologized to Feng Qingxiu, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Ever since the child and his grandparents lost their front and rear legs, Hongju has been hit too hard, which is a bit abnormal. In addition, the previous two in 2008, when the superiors issued anti-corruption, theft, and anti-extravagant directives, she always kept an eye on whether others were corrupt or extravagant. Then you can't just accuse people casually, Feng Qingxiu said unhappily. I know, sister-in-law, I'm really sorry. Li Shuitian smiled bitterly. I told her that everything must be done with real evidence, but sometimes she just can't control herself, and she can't listen to what I say. Husband and wife are one, this she did it, and I am willing to bear all the responsibilities and the consequences of the false accusation. Li Shuitian said categorically, and in an instant, Feng Qingxiu seemed to see Zhu Rong. Another Zhu Rong? Just as he was about to speak, Lu Zhang, who was leading another group of soldiers for actual combat, hurried over as soon as he returned to the camp. He was covered in mud from crawling and rolling and had no time to clean up. He came to Feng Qingxiu panting, Qingxiu, I heard something happened to our family. Are you okay? Are Zibao and Fubao okay? He looked up and down, afraid of missing the injuries to his wife and children. Dad, Zibao climbed on top of him without being too dirty and hugged his neck. I'm fine, don't worry, Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly. Lu Zhang breathed a sigh of relief and saluted the generals who were higher than him in turn. He also returned the salutes of the officers who were lower than him. He said with a cold face, what is going on? It concerns my family and I am qualified. Do you understand the ins and outs? Zheng Suifeng said, it has nothing to do with you here. You can take your wife and children home to talk about it. Although he was framed, Zheng Suifeng did not want Lu Zhang and his wife to get involved in these messy things. Cao Hongju's report, Chenju's actions, and Shan Qingming's matter were not simple. Lu Zhang was stunned, and Feng Qingxiu said, then let's go back first. I believe the leaders will handle it fairly. Deal with it impartially. Kui Xiaoyuan said sternly, don't worry, two comrades, we will not frame any innocent person, nor will we let any guilty person go. Please wait for the good news. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 795. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were given a half-day leave by the army, so after Lu Zhang finished taking a shower, the couple had time to pay attention to the follow-up situation. Many valuables were moved out of Qi Gang's home one after another. After registering and counting them one by one, they were sent to a room specially designed for storing stolen goods. On the same day, many supplies were also searched from Shan Qingming's dormitory. Shan Qingming's family members did not join the army. He lived in a dormitory alone and rarely let people in. Seeing the supplies that Lu Shui and Kui Xiaoyuan brought out from Shan Qingming's place, Feng Qingxiu thought, if it were left in the 21st century, the young netizens would laugh to death. What kind of things are they greedy for? How much is it worth? There are about 4 or 5 enamel basins in a pile, piles of new fabrics, piles of new towels, piles of military uniforms, a dozen pairs of brand new liberation shoes and a dozen pairs of military leather shoes. 3-jointed the leather shoes were actually military leather shoes from the beginning. There were a lot of paper, pens, and ink, stacks of military supply stamps, which should include food stamps and various supply stamps, as well as daily necessities such as military kettles, boilers, thermoses, and enamel jars. Some of the grains exceeded the standard and were classified as stolen goods. These things are not worth much, but in this era of scarcity, they are a huge amount of corruption and waste. Cao Hongju ignored Li Shuishan's stop and said loudly, "There are still a lot of things in Shan Qingming's hometown. This is just a part. I didn't have time to send it home. The bulk of the stolen goods in his house is." "Hongju, shut up," Li Shuitian almost had a headache. The onlookers looked at him and his wife, which made him very uncomfortable. Cao Hongju insisted on her duty as a socialist fighter and did not care what others thought of her. She shook off Li Shuishan's grasp of her arm, took a few steps forward, and continued, "Shan Qingming's parents, wife, and children live in the same production brigade as my aunt. Who doesn't know their old Shan family? I took a peek at their house. There is a wooden wall clock in the house. Shan Qingming's son also has a rare alarm clock. There is also a radio, sewing machine, bicycle, and military leather. Each person wears a military coat in a suitcase, wearing a military cotton jacket, military cotton trousers and a polyester cardigan. Liberation shoes, leather shoes, and rubber boots are all worn in turns. Many people ask their families to borrow military uniforms, military shoes, watches and bicycles when they get married. They still have more than 10 or 20 military quilts at home, and they live in poverty every year. They don't have to worry about food every year, and they have all the scarce supplies, but they are prosperous because Dan Qingming will send them back. If Shan Qingming's eyes could kill, then Cao Hongju would be completely gone now." Kui Xiaoyuan turned to the deputy commander and others and said, "Comrade Commander Chen said in front of the old leader that he would sort it out from top to bottom at the end of every year. Is this the result?" Zheng Suifeng said helplessly, "Last year, Comrade Commander Chen and Comrade Commander Ye went to the capital for a meeting, but we didn't inspect it as usual. We inspected it the year before last, and there were none of these things. Perhaps he had already taken the stolen goods before we inspected them. He was transferred back to his hometown. He was the one responsible for the corruption. We don't know the details. We need Comrade Shan Qingming's answer." The dejected Shan Qingming, like the 3 members of Qi Gang's family, were detained separately and no longer appeared in front of the public. The work of Kui Xiaoyuan and others is still in progress. All dormitories of senior generals and military family rooms must be inspected by them. As expected, 3 more corrupt elements were found, but the amount was relatively small. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 796. Shan Qingming had the largest amount. According to statistics, the value of the stolen goods reached thousands of yuan. The results of the investigation from his hometown have not yet been communicated, and the 2 parties must combine the stolen goods to be convicted. The ones with the largest amount of stolen goods after Shan Qingming were Qi Gang and Chenju. However, because Chenju bought many high-priced items with his own money, they had to wait for investigations in their hometown to confirm that Chenju relied on his power and violated national laws to use good goods as goods. To deal with matters such as the purchase of goods, investigators also have to visit grassroots soldiers to verify whether Qi Gang and Chenju forced the soldiers to buy high-priced goods as gifts to them. Of course, Kui Xiaoyuan and others also investigated whether the Lu family's records were true. The results showed that the Lu family's records were not fraudulent. The soldiers they found all said that they were either single and had no family burdens, or their family conditions were better, so before other family members came, they would buy some candies, cans of malted milk and other foods to amuse Zibao every month. Indeed, most people received gifts in return from the Lu family. After other family members arrived, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu declined their purchases more than once. After investigation, it was found that these people did not lie. Some of them were orphans. One person had enough to eat and the whole family was not hungry. Some of them were from relatively good families and did not need their own wages to support their families. The money they spent to buy high-priced goods was insignificant to them. I just like Zbao. Anyway, the army takes care of food and clothing, and our salary is usually not needed. Zbao came to the army with sister-in-law Kingseo when he was so young. I like Zbao's fair and chubby appearance and don't want him to starve and lose weight, so of course I bought him some delicious food. My supply quota is limited. Sometimes there is a quota, but the service agency doesn't have anything, so I bought Zbao 3 times in total. Other soldiers with heavy family burdens said that they had never bought anything for Zbao, nor had they been blackmailed by Lu Jiang and his wife. However, soldiers under Lu Jiang's command who had difficult families had received financial support from Lu Jiang and Feng Qingxiu. Lu Jiang and his wife occasionally, I would cook at home and invite them to the tooth ceremony, because Lu Jiang's comrades would send them some dried game and other things. You can investigate. You should be able to check the remittance records, right? Brigadier Lu pays his salary every month. Instead of giving it to Kingxiu's sister-in-law first, he first sends part of the money to the families of the martyrs. At first, it was sent in his own name. After going out, what happened to Gangzi, I sent it out in the name of the army, and also sent some food stamps, which lasted for many years. Yes, Gangzi is the son of our comrade Song Dazu. He has no father or mother, and the villagers are unwilling to raise him, so they shirked their responsibilities and sent him to the home of the Lu Brigade elder according to the address where money and food stamps were sent. After the military research, Captain Cao Hui and Dr. Wang Xinru adopted him, and he is now called Cao Songgang. At that time, Captain Cao and Dr. Wang were on the battlefield and it was inconvenient to take him to their side. Sister-in-law Kingxiu raised him for several years and raised him well. Now, they treat Kingxiu's sister-in-law like a mother. She was not taken back to the army until last year, and then she went to school. Now, the one who is playing ball with Zbao on the grass is Cao Songgang. Lu Shui and Kui Xiaoyuan took a look outside, and sure enough they saw a group of older boys playing football. Zbao stood out because he was the fattest. Play together. After Zbao caught the ball, he hugged it and refused to let go. There was a 7 or 8-year-old boy next to him to protect him from others. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 797. No. Mine. Zbao lay down on the ground and pressed the ball under his belly. He was a bit heavy and the ball was squashed by him. Today, Sunday, all the children were like kites flying in the wind, and most of them ran out to have fun. Xiao Shita ran up to Zbao, sweating profusely and panting, with his hands on his hips. Lu Zbao, you can't be so selfish. Why don't you kick the ball for us for a while? We'll take you to kick it with us. Zbao snorted, that's bad, you won't play with me. Songgang said, you said you would take Zbao to play with you, but you didn't wait for Zbao when we played football. The ball still belonged to Zbao. Yes, Zbao said loudly. However, it was quite uncomfortable to have a ball underneath. After a while, Zbao got up on his own and rubbed his belly. Xiao Shita took the opportunity to kick the ball away, and a group of boys cheered and chased after him. My ball! My ball! Zbao yelled and chased after it. The older child has longer legs, so he can run faster. Zbao's little fat body is a burden and he can't catch up in a long time. The others were all slender, but Zbao was hunky-backed. Feng Qingxiu kept scratching his ears, we have to let him eat less. Guo Xiuying, who was holding Fu Bao, heard this and said, what did you say? You are so cruel. In order to let yourself eat more good food, you actually cut down on 11 Bao's food. Are you such a mother? Of course she was joking, everyone could tell and started laughing. The infant Fu Bao then showed a sweet smile. Hey, our little Fu Bao is really fat, just like a big brother. Wang Xinru looked at it with envy. You can imagine that when 11 Bao was so big, he was just a white and soft glutinous rice. Tuanzi. King Xiu, you take care of your two children so well, one Fu Bao is worth two of other people's babies. Feng Qingxiu helplessly looked at the fat baby in front of her. Fu Bao was so fat that his cheeks were drooping, and his double chin was very obvious. He was fatter than 11 Bao when he was a child, and the weight was there. This is milk fat, this is milk fat, I will lose weight after weaning, Feng Qingxiu comforted herself. Children were running around the place, and adults with good relationships gathered in small groups, chatting about important events in the army. There will be a meeting tomorrow to fight against corrupt criminals, will you go? It was Huang Xiaozi who spoke, and it was Feng Qingxiu and others who asked. Feng Qingxiu shook her head, I have to work tomorrow, and I won't go unless the troops give orders to be there. As one of the people who was reported, Feng Qingxiu has a deep understanding of people's hearts. Recently, she has been more cautious and does not allow Lu Jiang to buy local specialties from people in Tibetan areas for fear of causing trouble again. There were confiscated items to prove that Qi Gang, Chenju, Shan Qingming and others were equally guilty, so there was no need for her to add insult to injury. What she hates most now is Cao Hongju, and she is waiting for the army and investigators to deal with the false accuser. Wang Xinru whispered, it's impossible to handle someone like Cao Hongju, so you have to be mentally prepared. Why? Feng Qingxiu frowned. She is a socialist fighter who exposes corrupt criminals who are taking the capitalist road. Although you and Lu Jiang are innocent after investigation, the evidence of the others is conclusive, there is nothing wrong if you are not convinced. The slogan is good and well done. It's business. Feng Qingxiu's face looked very ugly, so, she won't be punished in any way? Then we deserve to be falsely accused. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 798. Wang Xinru spread her hands, there is no way. If the whistleblower is punished, who will dare to expose unfair things in the future? As for whether he did it out of jealousy, the higher UPS will not care. However, even if Cao Hongju is not punished, no one will. I am willing to have a sincere relationship with her, but everyone is afraid that she will report him in the future. Huang Xiaozi whispered, Qingxiu, don't be angry. I tell you, this situation is good. Is it considered good that we were reported? Is it serious to kill us? Huang Xiaozi glanced at the sky and continued in a low voice, at least after she reported it, someone came from above to investigate and clear your and Lu Jiang's innocence. In our hometown city, some people reported others because they were jealous of the good living conditions in their homes. Corruption was directly convicted without any investigation at all. Where can the person who was reported complain? This kind of thing is not uncommon. My third grandfather in my hometown, Xiao Shitu, trapped a wild rabbit one year and did not turn it over to the brigade. Secretly stewed it at home. Guess what happened? Has it been reported? Feng Qingxiu asked. Yes, Huang Xiaozi sighed, the aroma of the rabbit stewed in the middle of the night spread out, and a person who got up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet smelled it. It was like breaking the news. Our third uncle, stewed well. My rabbit was confiscated, I was criticized and almost beaten to death, but I came forward to plead for mercy and spared Xiao Shitu for the sake of his father. I took Xiao Shitu with me to fight against corruption, theft, extravagance, and waste. It was going on in full swing, and the branch secretary of our brigade was beaten down because his living standard was higher than the average. It seems that he was reported by jealous people. Guo Xiuying and Wang Xinru had been in the army for a long time and didn't know much about this situation, so they listened involuntarily. Huang Xiaozi opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but did not continue. She quickly changed the topic. It was not until she visited the Lu family after lunch that she lowered her voice and said to Feng Qingxiu, there is no landlord in our brigade. We fought against the landlord back then. At that time, the county party committee had to ask our brigade to find a landlord, so the person who should have been classified as a rich peasant became a landlord. The whole family was criticized and beaten every day. I heard that the landlord in the brigade next door died early. There are 180 charges on his head. Although he is not a good person, he has not done so many bad things. He can't bear the people to say categorically that he did it. Feng Qingxiu was horrified. Can you actually do this? So sister-in-law Xinru said that it is unlikely that Cao Hongju will be punished. Huang Xiaozi shook her head. Did Cao Hongju's report letter mention Lu Jiang's status? I just heard some private discussions among family members yesterday. Cao Hongju reporting that you are all gossips made by Lu Zayadai. Please ask Lu Jiang to write a letter and tell your father-in-law to be careful. Feng Qingxiu thanked Huang Xiaozi and told Lu Jiang that evening. Lu Jiang gently stroked his wife's smooth back. Don't worry, Dad won't let anyone take advantage of him, and we have acquaintances in the county and city committees, so naturally they won't find anyone to accuse our dad. If he does, he will be punished early. I added it in a few years, I won't wait until now. When I was a soldier in the Southwest Military Region, I visited an exhibition hall with the army. I will tell you about this later, but I will tell you a good thing first. What good thing? You guess. Feng Qingxiu shook her head, unable to guess. From today on, I will temporarily take over the position of Deputy Commander Chi. It's Chapter 8. I'll update again at 12 o'clock. Please vote. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 799. Feng Qingxiu was lying on Lu Jiang. When she heard these words, she couldn't help but support his chest with the tip of her elbow, raised her little white jade face, her eyes were sparkling, and she said in surprise, upgraded to 3 levels in a row. Above the brigade commander there is the division commander, and above the division commander there is the corps commander. Although above the corps commander is the corps commander is the head of an army and the main military commander, with 3 divisions under his jurisdiction. She originally thought that with Lu Jiang's efforts, without fighting, it would take at least 10 years to become the commander of an army. After all, the records about Lu Jiang were recorded in the documents. Who would have thought that Lu Jiang would reach such a status at this age? The annoyance caused by Cao Hongju and others has long been forgotten. Compared with the trivial matters in life, getting promoted and making a fortune is more important. Lu Jiang kissed her chin and said funnily, "Don't you understand what temporary acting means? It's acting, and he's acting deputy commander. I took over the position that Deputy Commander Chi was responsible for before, and there is no change in salary and benefits. It's still a quasi-teacher level job, with a monthly salary of 205 yuan, plus a 20% subsidy." Feng Qingxiu still felt very happy, with a smile as bright as a flower. If you are serious and responsible, maybe you can remove the word agent soon. As for the salary, it is not necessary for us. This is not the case. There are many acting officers in the army. The main issues are military rank, merit, and ability. However, many of them were promoted to military ranks during the agency process, and achieved military exploits, and their abilities also caught up with their experience, and they were soon removed from the agency. Hat of. I am good at leading troops in training and fighting. As acting commander, I am young and inexperienced, and my military rank is not up to standard. I am really afraid that I will not be able to convince the public Lu Jiang's side. In the future, we must be more cautious. Be careful in your words and actions, and try not to leave any trace behind. Some recent investigations have made the troops panic. Feng Qingxiu said softly, live and learn until you are old. No one knows how to be an official from the beginning. Fortunately, you have been a soldier for more than 10 years, and you know all about it very well, so you don't have to worry about taking responsibility. I can't bear the responsibility of deputy commander. Although they are happy to be promoted, they will be very busy after that. Because they were acting deputy commanders, neither Lu Zhang nor Feng Qingxiu dared to pretend to be deputy commanders. The latter, as usual, worked as he should and was not complacent because of it. Good boy. After reporting his work, Zhao Yang punched Lu Zhang on the shoulder. The two fought side by side, advancing and retreating together. Seeing Lu Jiang's promotion, Zhao Yang was more happy than anyone else. How proud he was. Ashamed, I need brother Zhao to give me more guidance in the future. Lu Zhang was a little embarrassed that the work arrangement was now on Zhao Yang's head. I thought one of the several division commanders would be promoted to temporarily take over the position of deputy commander Qi. Now he was promoted out of the norm, which surprised him. He had never thought about it. He now holds the position of brigade commander, and several division commanders in the army have higher ranks than himself, including Su Junlin. Even if Zhao Yang and his rank are reconciled, he cannot conceal the merits of other division commanders. They have an advantage in terms of age. Zhao Yang smiled and said, if the superiors agree, or if the superiors disagree, who dares to promote you? The position of army commander is not just whoever is promoted by the subordinates, but whoever is elected. Didn't you see the signing order? That's over in the capital. Signed by the old leader himself. Your main task now is to do your job conscientiously. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 800. In the military hospital, many people congratulated Feng Qingxiu. They all saw the appointment letter posted on the military bulletin board. Zhang is only temporarily filling in for a few days while Deputy Commander Qi is under investigation. Once Deputy Commander Qi proves his innocence, Zhang will have to return to his original position. Feng Qingxiu was very modest. She couldn't. Are you really showing your pride? If you are happy, just hide it in your heart. There is no need to show it and annoy others. Wang Sanbao nodded her forehead. Even if Deputy Commander Qi is innocent, he will never be the deputy commander again. What Chenju did was very bad, and Qi Gang was embarrassed. Why? Feng Qingxiu asked. Guo Xiuying said, it's very simple. After all, Chenju relied on his power to do what he did. Comrade Qi Gang will definitely be punished by the army, and maybe he will be punished by the capital. Zhang is old and spicy, and Guo Xiuying was right. At the end of April, the Border Defense Forces investigation finally came to an end, including at the military district headquarters. No corruption was found there, only 2 senior officers and female soldiers from the cultural troop were found to be having an affair. When Lu Shui returned to Beijing in early May, Kui Xiaoyuan did not leave immediately, but dealt with the remaining matters after receiving the telegram from above. First, Shan Qingming embezzled more than 3,000 yuan and was sentenced to death and executed on the spot. The materials confiscated from Shan Qingming's dormitory amounted to thousands of yuan, and the stolen goods recovered from his hometown exceeded 2,000 yuan. This was only part of the money, not counting the materials that had been consumed in the past. Shan Qingming and his family have more than 3,000 yuan in savings, but the nature of materials and money are different. Then, Qi Gang was directly demoted from deputy army commander to deputy regimental commander, but he was still allowed to stay in the army. Although Qi Gang had a lot of supplies at home, it was indeed Chenju who paid for them herself. She just relied on her power to buy good goods in the form of disposal goods without needing a ticket, causing great harm. Chenju was extravagant and wasteful, and demanded a total of dozens of yuan in bribes from low-level soldiers. Therefore, Chenju was exempted from the death penalty, but could not escape the life crime, and was sentenced to 10 years of labor reform. Chenju took all the blame on herself. Of course, Qi Gang did not know anything about it, so Qi Gang was demoted, and his life was not harmed, and he did not need to do labor reform. The old leader personally ordered the punishment of Shan Qingming and Qi Gang. Someone in the capital begged for mercy, saying that both Shan Qingming and Qi Gang were old revolutionaries and had made many achievements, among them Qi Gang was a general. They hoped that they could redeem their crimes in the future. The old leader did not agree and only said 4 words: corruption deserved to kill. 3 other corrupt elements in the army were spared the death penalty due to relatively small amounts of money, but were given 15 years of labor reform. As a result, the position of the logistics department minister became vacant. The military region directly promoted the deputy minister Mao Kuei from the rank and selected a long-standing logistics department cadre from below to be the deputy minister, namely Wang Zijin. Before he could congratulate Wang Zijin, the above documents came down. The military rank system will be abolished from now on. At the same time, the military uniform styles were announced above. The 3 armed forces are unified. The difference between cadres and soldiers is that the former has 4 pockets and the latter has 2 pockets. The collars distinguish men and women. The Navy is dark gray, the Army is grass green, and the Air Force is green and blue. The trousers and cap are a liberation cap with an all-red 5-pointed star cap badge and an all-red collar badge. On June 1, the entire Army wore new uniforms, and the entire Army had an atmosphere of prosperity.